When you look at the trade just on paper right now, is it fair, or did one team get over on the other in your opinion?
If the quarterback they draft is elite, then it doesn't matter what the compensation was.
We have a bombshell in the National Football League. Sources are confirming that the Bears are trading the number 1 overall pick to the Panthers. So Carolina Panthers is going to have the number 1 overall pick in exchange for big-time compensation, including multiple first-rounders. That's Rappaport. Let me give you the compensation update. We got it officially from Schefter. So the Bears are trading the number 1 overall pick to Carolina. Bears are getting back pick number 9, pick number 61, a first-round draft pick in 2024, a second-round pick in 2025, and the Bears are receiving wide receiver DJ Moore. So again, if you're just joining us here on Sharp Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network, a huge shakeup to the draft coming up in April as Carolina has acquired the number 1 overall pick from the Chicago Bears. Amal Shaw.
Love it. DJ Moore is a guy that was a first-round pick out of Maryland. He's been in the league 5 years, Patrick. Already 5,200 yards receiving with who's been the quarterback in Carolina? I mean, they haven't even had consistency.
He's a tremendous receiver. He's a tremendous weapon.
Real quick, his last 4 years, 1175, 1193, 1157, and 888. And here's the best part of it. They went to 17 games in 2021. The previous 2 years, he played 15 and 14 games, played 34 years the last 2 years. So when you think about it, not only is he a guy that's out there performing, but he's durable. He's in the lineup. He's missed 2 games in his career so far. So, I think he's been fantastic.
Let's go ahead and throw up the draft order, and it's going to look a little different to you. Chicago Bears fans, you got your wish. You're going to keep your quarterback. You get the 9th overall pick, and the Carolina Panthers have moved up. Remember, there are only 2 quarterbacks on the Panthers roster, Matt Corral and Jacob Eason. That wasn't going to get it done. They're going to draft whom, Amal Shaw?
It's interesting. I think Carolina has an affinity for Anthony Richardson, but I still think it's going to be Bryce Young out of Alabama. I think he's going to wind up there. I think the Bears did themselves just a great job in terms of where they want to go now. I'll tell you who's hurt by this is Houston, because remember, Houston had an opportunity to get the first overall pick. It didn't get it done by winning against Indianapolis. So this would be really interesting to see. Are the Texans just going to by default take whoever they don't take? So this is something to pay attention to.
Odds off the board as far as who's going to be the number 1 overall pick.
Yeah.
A hell of a load for Chicago. Let me clarify this. I'm glad you brought up DJ Moore because that's a huge piece to this.
Yeah.
DJ Moore is a tremendous weapon, but also the Bears get number 9. That was Carolina's original first-round pick this year. They get 61. Obviously, they get a first-rounder next year, 24, as I mentioned, and they get a second-rounder in 2025. The Bears did well here. Now, your reaction during the break when Dustin broke the news to us that Carolina was trading up for the number 1 overall pick was the fact that you said immediately they're going to take Bryce Young. You know who thinks Carolina should take Bryce Young? Nick Saban, and here's what he had to say about the quarterback.
I think history is the best indicator of what the future is going to bring. And Bryce is not ideal height that NFL folks would like to see for that particular position, quarterback. But I think Bryce has played extremely well. He has no history of being injury prone.
Right.
Because the SEC, there's a lot of folks in the SEC that end up playing in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And he plays against those guys every week. I don't think it's an issue. I think you have to look at each individual player. This guy plays quarterback like a point guard in basketball. He knows where everybody is. He can extend plays. He creates throwing lanes for himself, which is important for a guy his size. He can make all the throws. He's smart. He has a lot of the attributes from a psychological disposition standpoint that are necessary to excel at this position.
We all thought the Bears would trade out of the number 1 spot. I guess we all were wondering who the dance partner would be. We know it's Carolina. They go from 9 to 1. The first question I asked Sean to begin the show is one I'm going to ask you. We know it's a quarterback. Which quarterback do you think it will be now that the Panthers do have the number 1 overall pick?
Well, I think you got to look at Frank Wright and see what he likes in quarterbacks. And, he's had Phillip Rivers in San Diego. Then he had him again in Indianapolis. He's also been around some, the Carson Wentz when he played well in Philadelphia. So he likes bigger quarterbacks. I mean, I think he would probably lean towards Stroud. But, Bryce Young's tape's so good that I think he could probably make a case for that. He plays in really good weather. He's got the Carolina, plays in the Dome in New Orleans, plays in Tampa. So that fits Bryce Young pretty well. My guess it's between Bryce Young and Stroud, although, I would not rule out Richardson because Richardson is a guy that's got a lot of buzz. But my guess is it's Stroud or Young.
A couple of things here. You mentioned Anthony Richardson. This could be interesting because what Richardson did at the combine, okay, I've got it in front of me right here. First off, he measured a monster. He was Cam Newton's height. He ran a 4.43 40. That's insanity, Amal Shaw. He was thick at 244. His vertical and broad jump were combine records for a quarterback. He did a backflip to conclude the day. He was throwing 60-yard bombs with ease. The 4.43 with Richardson, the Florida quarterback that did nothing on the field, has people, scouts, salivating.
Well, I love the way you phrased that at the end, did nothing on the field. Look, he's got incredible talent. But remember, Terrell Pryor was a comp to Vince Young, and he wasn't able to deliver in terms of at the collegiate level as well, and he wasn't great in the NFL. He ended up moving to wide receiver. Now, when you look at Cam Newton, he's a league MVP, but to me, there were still question marks about his accuracy. His size was a huge factor. I just think that Anthony Richardson, if Carolina takes him, it's going to be a long-term bad move. You're just not going to develop the accuracy. I know Jalen Hurts improved drastically, but how many quarterbacks have you seen? And I hear the comments about Josh Allen. I don't agree with it because ESPN had a great graphic a few weeks ago. They had guys like Jim Druckenmiller in there, I think Rick Meyer, guys who had a bad accuracy in terms of the NFL draft and how they perform. Meyer may not have been in there, but the point is, if a guy didn't have great accuracy, which this guy, Anthony Richardson, didn't have in college, you didn't see them have a good, successful NFL career. He was 53.8% last year at Florida.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. Did nothing on the field, but the measurables are off the charts. And again, a 4.43 is a dumb number for a quarterback his size who was thick at 244. He obviously has the arm strength. The accuracy is going to be a big question. You said it perfectly. Accuracy is generally innate. You don't see Allen. You don't see players like Allen in Buffalo. You don't see that jump in completion percentage like he's had throughout the history of the game. So it's fascinating to see what happens here with Anthony Richardson.
The peak of that organization was with Cam Newton at quarterback. And Anthony Richardson is not as accomplished of a college player as Cam Newton was coming into the league, but there are similarities from a skill set standpoint. Do you think that historical aspect plays a role in the decision?
I don't. I think that, when you look at leader to leader, I mean, Cam Newton, when he walks in the room, he's a unique leader. And he takes over and he won the Heisman Trophy, and I think certainly he has that skill. Richardson has yet to proven that leadership or production on the field. Athletically, he's marvelous. But I think the way the betting market just moved and the way my mind worked towards C.J. Stroud and Frank Wright, I think that's what it is. I think they get a bigger guy. Look, I don't think they're going to do all this for a 5'10" guy. I think they have to be a little concerned. I think Stroud threw the ball well. I think people will really like the kid as a person. I could see that. Look, I think Bryce Young, you put on the game against Georgia in the championship game, and I've been a guy that has said all along the 5'10" guy worries me. But you watch that tape, and the throws he makes in that tape are unique. But to me, this makes more sense for Stroud than Young when you look at Frank Wright and David Tepper, who's behind this, the owner of the Panthers. I think he wants to invest in somebody he's not worried about getting hurt.
Yeah, I've evaled all the quarterbacks, and I'll agree. Unless you have, no issues just from a stature standpoint, their film is very similar. I have them 1A, 1B. I wouldn't talk anybody out of either one being on top of the other. Both outstanding players, I think, going to be outstanding pros. Let me present you with this. When I saw this deal, what piqued my interest the most was DJ Moore to Chicago. All of a sudden now, and Justin Fields has to take the next step as a passer. In a lot of ways, he's very similar to what Jalen Hurts was last year. People were unsure if he was going to make the maturation to what we witnessed this year, which was a borderline MVP season. I'm not saying Fields is going to make that significant of a jump, but Michael, all of a sudden now a team that had no weapons, all of a sudden is loaded with draft picks. They traded for Chase Claypool midseason. They have a young receiver in Darnell Mooney who's really good. And now you add DJ Moore and Kmet at tight end. It looks like it's starting to shift in Chicago. Agree or disagree?
Well, I mean, it has to, right? But I think when you go back and watch the tape, I mean, look, Justin Fields didn't in 15 games, he threw for less than 150 yards. I mean, they couldn't throw the ball. Here's a stat that just blew my mind last year. The Bears tied for last place in point differential with the Indianapolis Colts. They were behind 8.1 points per game. The Colts threw the ball 35 times per game. The Bears threw it 22. Even when the Bears got behind, they didn't want to throw the ball. So for me, that tells me they're worried about Justin Fields throwing it. He's got to get better. I think this analogy to Jalen Hurts is different because when you watch Hurts, his second season, he threw the ball better than Fields did in his second season. But you're right. Here's the reality. There's no more excuses for Justin Fields. He's a great athlete and a great runner. But now he's got enough skill players around him. Sacked 55 times last year. 16 fumbles in the games he started. He doesn't improve those areas, it's not going to matter.
Big guy, you just texted me something as far as odds, number one overall pick. I'm going to have you jump in because I got a lot going on here and juggling. Do you see anything on the number one overall pick now that Carolina has acquired it from the Bears?
So everything's off the board at the moment. However, coming into today this morning, I checked the odds. Anthony Richardson, the Panthers were the favorite to take him at 3-1. When it comes to the number one overall pick, Bryce Young was still the odds-on favorite, laying 165 on DraftKings, and was also the favorite to be the first quarterback selected at minus 250. So the market before the trade said it was Bryce Young. Would it be a total shock if Anthony Richardson is the move? I know Amal would hate it, but as someone who has a 55 and 95 to 1 ticket on it, I hope that Amal is wrong.
Oh, you're sitting in a tremendous spot. And of course, Frank Reich, new head coach there in Carolina. This is a huge move. Tepper's an aggressive guy, that owner. And by the way, Chicago gets a lot back. They get a wide receiver 1 in DJ Moore. And yes, he can be wide receiver 1. You know it, Amal, and you said it perfectly, illustrated it earlier. They get pick number 9 overall. They get pick 61. They get a first rounder next year and a second rounder in 2025. This is exactly what Chicago wanted to do.
No question about it. The only thing I had an issue with is the second rounder in 2025 because you're talking 3 drafts away, including this one. That's my only issue. But other than that, I think they did a tremendous job in terms of what they were able to do.
Okay, so Twitter's going crazy right now. People are going nuts as breaking news. Again, Carolina has jumped up. They leapfrog quarterback-needy teams like you see it. Let's go ahead and throw the order up again and kind of get a feel for the draft with Carolina as your number one overall selection here. Carolina needs a quarterback. They're going to draft one. Houston is looking to add Jimmy G as a bridge. They're going to draft a quarterback. Arizona wishes they need a quarterback, but they got ski masked by Kyler Murray. They're sitting 3. Indianapolis Colts absolutely need a quarterback. They're going to take one. The Seahawks just re-upped with their quarterback. The Detroit Lions, why do you need a quarterback when you have Jared Goff? I say that half kiddingly. Las Vegas is going to try to acquire Jimmy G as well. And Atlanta, sitting 8, certainly needs a quarterback. Your new number 9 is Chicago. They've got their quarterback of the future based on this trade in Justin Fields, Amal.
Yeah, absolutely. But I think this improves this team. Remember, the Bears are coming into the season with a potential $100 million in cap space. You add a quarterback in DJ Moore. Now with the number 9 pick, you can take the kid out of Northwestern, the offensive tackle. His name eludes me right now at left tackle. Or you can take Paris Johnson out of Ohio State at left tackle. Then you potentially look at getting somebody else later on in terms of another receiver. I think they're in great shape, the Bears. Look, the draft picks are outstanding. But getting DJ Moore, it's a difference maker. We saw the impact that A.J. Brown had on Devontae Smith and Jalen Hurts and how impactful it was with the Eagles overall.
You and I are on the same page. When I saw the compensation on Schefter, I gasped when I saw DJ Moore's name there. Like, that is a legit weapon and a guy that could be wide receiver 1 for Justin Fields.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.